ultimately, though, how's this going to factor into the tangible, what we can see for Vermont's energy future? More projects like these?
Good question. That's a good question. You know, the Clean Energy Development Fund has been integral to building the bridge to renewables at a time when price doesn't necessarily support that bridge, where we've been in artificially low electric rates nationally. Our challenge is to move to renewables as quickly as we can and to be ahead of the other states because, in my judgment, we're all going to be heading there. And price will, in fact, be competitive as oil prices go up. So our challenge here in Vermont is how do we ensure that we keep the fund doing its work at a time when we know that the main funder of the fund, Vermont Yankee, is going offline in 2012. We are putting together an energy plan that will come to the public by October 15. I've asked the commissioner to ensure that in that plan it includes a proposal for the legislature next year to make sure that the Clean Energy Fund continues to be funded. And let's not forget that both the House's 55-cent surcharge and my proposal is a one-year bridge to that revenue source. We've got to have that revenue source.
Does this do anything?
And then I just might add, it's no secret, I mean, from the campaign, my website, you saw what my plan is. I intend to propose a high-level nuclear waste surcharge on any Vermont entity that wishes to store high-level nuclear waste in the state of Vermont after March 2012. Sorry.
That would fund
I would like some of that revenue to fund the Clean Energy Fund.
Could you tell us how much money is actually in the fund at the moment?
Andy, do you want to come over and say? You've got to come over here, otherwise they'll get ugly at you.
Hey, right now, there's 5.6 million.
Does this do anything to lessen the guarantee of a project getting done? You know, we're giving the people money as they're building the project. What if he never finishes his project? Does he have to give the money back?
I mean, they get it after commissioning, so they have to build the project, and then they get the money after they have proven the costs. So it's not a grant up front. It's after they've commissioned the project.
Even now, but I thought the advantage was...
Well, you're getting it a lot sooner. If you have a tax credit, you got to file your taxes and get it as a credit. This way you would get it as upon commissioning, and it's guaranteed. You would have a guaranteed letter so that you could take that to your financiers and show them.
You said there were, I believe, 23 folks who had gotten the credits last year, and that you were reaching out to them. How many have you asked, and how many have said, yeah, I'm going to do that so far? 23
businesses, and we've asked, I'd say definitely the majority of the money. There's several projects in there that are like $4,000 credits. I didn't spend the time to call them because it wouldn't have made a $2,000 difference if they had chosen this. But we reached out to the majority by far and talked to them. And I think, as was said before me, some of them said, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. Others said, let us go to our CPAs and do the numbers and look at the comparison before we make a commitment.
Governor, did I figure out, this idea came from, presumably, Dave Blittersdorf at All Earth?
We had a recommendation made by David at All Earth who said, I have an idea you might want to look at. And thankfully to the legwork of the Secretary of Administration and of Andy, the answer came back and said, good idea, it'll work. This dog will hunt.
So does he get half his campaign contributions back?
Very funny.
I had to ask.
Can you talk about the way that you sent this news to the legislature that you didn't support this 55 cent and whether or not that was the best way to have gone about doing it?
You know, occasionally, just every once in a great while, someone gets a good idea. There's no exclusive on when the idea comes or who hasn't. But all I would ask is, give us a little credit where credit's due. There was a bill moving through the legislature. A better idea came to us. We shared that idea as quickly as we could once we were sure that it would work, and that's what we're doing here. And so, you know, I understand that the process isn't always as well-timed as everyone might wish, but our job is, and I keep saying, judge us by the bills that we sign, not all of the mechanizations that happen while we get there. This is a good idea. It'll work. I would rather save Vermont ratepayers 55 cents a month with a good idea than worry about how you all interpret our timing.
Well, some of the legislators were pretty ticked off. I mean, they
Now, Dave, how long you been around this building?
a couple of years.
Well, if the legislators aren't ticked off, most of the time you're not doing your job.
I mean, could you have saved some of that consternation by, say, okay, I'm going to launch my idea when I go to the Senate and let the House go through third reading?
Sure. Oh, now, can I just run that one backwards? After House votes on 55-cent increase, all legislators on record, governor comes out with idea for his pet Senate where he once was president. I mean, how would that headline go?
About like that.
Sounds pretty good.
Thank you. Now, guys, there are some battles we can't win. Celebrate. We got a good idea. Print it. Let's go. Let's rock. Let's move on.
But, have you run this one by the legislative leaders, and are they on board?
Not only have I, but I actually ran this by legislative leaders as soon as I heard about it. And I said, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to look into it.
When did you hear about it? What was the day?
When did I call you?
A couple of weekends ago,
14 days,
you called
13
me.
days.
Checking out of Aubuchon's, as I remember correctly.
Yes, you were in Aubuchon's, and I was on the road.
So this becomes incorporated in the Senate bill and then it's resolved at council?
I don't know what the process is. I think the speaker may well want to take this up in the House, so whatever the process, I just ask that it gets to my desk. I think it'll work.
Can you talk about what assurances you made to IBM that made them feel a little bit better about what's going on with the healthcare bill downstairs?
You know, I got to tell you, I didn't make any assurances. We had a great conversation about our challenge in Vermont of containing costs as well as IBM has. And, you know, I don't think there's a business in Vermont that doesn't understand that the current rate of spending is going to bankrupt small business and that our healthcare system is in real trouble if we continue on the current course, because we're losing our providers, we're losing our small hospitals, and the reimbursement system is killing us. They also understand that 20% increases in premiums isn't sustainable. So we had a really good conversation about Vermont's challenge with the folks from outside of Vermont who weren't that familiar with our challenges here. And I invited them to join us in putting together the first cost containment system in the country that will work. They have extraordinary expertise at IBM. I might point out they also have a lot of technology expertise that we could use, and we had a really productive conversation.
They're going to put something in writing. Are you going to sign that something? Say, yeah, that's what we talked about.
I'm not planning on signing anything. They did offer to at the end of the meeting, my recollection is that they offered to put in writing some of their thoughts about healthcare, and that's hugely helpful to us.
Some lawmakers are talking about this issue between perception and reality with 202, and saying that this talk of single payer, this talk of universal plan that's publicly financed, is politicizing this in a way that isn't necessary given what's actually in the bill. Why do you feel like it's important to commit now to single payer 5 years from now or 7 years from now instead of just focusing on the cost containment and stuff that's in there right now?
Well, let's be clear. I'm committed to single payer by 2014, assuming that we get the federal waiver from Washington to do it in 2014. You've elected a governor who believes that the best way to contain cost is in a single payer healthcare system.
H202 will save Vermont $1 trillion over the next 10 years. Do you think it's not this correct?
Over the next 10 years? I don't know. There's a lot of billion and a trillion. I think I'd say it a little differently. And in fairness to the chair, I don't know exactly what he's referring to, but my judgment is that we will save roughly $500 million just from the low-hanging fruit, the bill collecting and the other estimations that Dr. Shao has made in his report. And that there's obviously a lot more to be saved as we move to a healthcare system where we reimburse providers based on healthy outcomes instead of fee-for-service. That doesn't happen in the first few years. But I'm not sure I could get to $1 trillion quite that quickly.
There was a big kerfuffle last week over a survey that you might have heard about. And there was also a hearing on Thursday night with providers. And a number of them came from Fletcher Allen Healthcare, and they expressed a lot of concern about getting squeezed in the new system. And I wonder what responses. A lot of them said, we'll leave the state. It's the same thing we're hearing from businesses over other issues. What's your response to that?
I think it's really important that we remember who's against this plan and who's spending money to kill it. And it should come to as a surprise to no one that the insurance companies are not enamored with this plan. They're making a lot of money off our illnesses. Insurance agents are not enamored by the plan. Just in this little state of Vermont, there's roughly $20 million being made just as agents sell policies to other Vermonters. So, we've got plenty of people who don't want to see change. I think the question we have to ask ourselves every day is, since healthcare is a right and not a privilege, since Vermont knows that we're spending money beyond our capacity to sustain our healthcare system, don't we have a responsibility to think big, to be bold, and to try lead where others seem willing to follow? I say if we succeed, we grow jobs and we grow economic opportunities. And the other 49 states will wish that were we. Now, it's tough, it's hard, there's a lot of work, a lot of unanswered questions. Give us our 5-member board, let them get to work. We invite the business community, healthcare providers, everyone at Fletcher Allen to come down and help us build a better system. I don't think there's a doctor at Fletcher Allen that would say the current system's beautiful, leave it the way it is, and we're going to thrive in the future.
You briefed the leadership about this new funding mechanism. Are they
briefed is a generous word. In our weekly meetings, just to be clear, which were Mondays, I said, "Hey, I got an idea. We got an idea. We're working on it. Might work." So,
did they have a response? Did they share your enthusiasm?
We discussed so many topics at those meetings that I truthfully can't answer that. They certainly didn't say what a lousy idea. No.
So when you talked with them about it, when you first found out about the idea, did you suggest to them that they rein in this 55-cent charge pending the vetting?
No. I just said we'd work on it as quickly as we could and let them know whether we thought it would work.
Is your problem with the 55 cents the symbolism of it or the real financial impact of $6.60 a year on low-income people, or both?
I know this is hard to convey because so many politicians say it and they don't mean it. I really do believe that lower taxes would help us grow jobs, not higher taxes. I really do believe that having the lowest electric rates that we can will grow jobs. And it all adds up. So, I really do work an awful lot of the time. I was on Randolph all day today meeting with 3 different businesses, asking the question, how can we grow jobs? I think I've done as much outreach to business as any governor of recent memory, and all of this stuff matters. So collectively, we've got a job to do. I'm not saying that a $5.50 surcharge is the end of the world. I'm saying that cumulatively, if we can solve problems by being creative, which I believe this proposal does, without asking ratepayers to pay more, and still get the same result, we should all pop the cork and celebrate.
And there's no rule on how these companies spend their cash payouts?
Well, they'd have to have already built the project, so they have to prove their costs. So that's why you do it after the project's built, so you're sure the money...
But is the goal so they then reinvest this money? Like, what do you expect from them?
Our goal is just to get more money in the fund so that we can allocate more projects to new applicants. Hey, thank you.